Hello, and thank you for joining us for this special interview. In recent days, the US President Donald Trump has raised the issue of the Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan. While writing on his Truth Social platform, President Trump told the Taliban leadership to hand back control of the airbase to those who built it, namely the United States. Well, Bagram is the largest airbase in Afghanistan, and it was central to the US-led war effort in the country. But US and NATO troops pulled out of Afghanistan in July 2021, and then the Taliban took back control. Well, in today's exclusive interview, we're going to be discussing that and more with Zabihullah Mujahid, who is a spokesperson for the Taliban government. Mr. Mujahid, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us. A couple of months ago, in an interview with Al Arabiya, you mentioned contact with the United States about reopening your country's embassy in Washington. You expressed a desire for good relations with the US. Has there been any progress on that front?
In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate. When two countries are in contact, progress must come from both sides. We have made efforts so that relations between Afghanistan and the US can return to normal, including matters related to the embassy as well as trade and investment. There have been meetings and exchanges, but so far the issue of the embassy and relations has not reached a final outcome. But Afghanistan has fulfilled its responsibilities in this regard.
Following on from the recent deadly earthquake in your country, we've seen greater openness towards engagement with the Afghan government. Do you see this as an opportunity to press for the lifting of US sanctions?
In our view, every opportunity should be used to improve relations between countries. Afghanistan seeks good relations with the United States and with all other nations. We want issues between us to be resolved diplomatically. But I stress again, this is a two-way street, not a one-way path. The Americans must also show flexibility, seriousness, and willingness to establish good ties with Afghanistan.
Now, last week in London, the US President Donald Trump said he was working to get back the Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan, adding, we're trying to get back Bagram because they need things from us. What things was he referring to, do you think? And what exactly do you want from Washington?
There are two issues here which we need to separate. First, Afghanistan does indeed need good relations, foreign investment, including from the US, and a trustworthy diplomatic environment, where both countries can interact based on their national interests. Second, regarding Bagram, Bagram is part of Afghanistan's territory. It is no different from any other piece of Afghan land. We will never agree to bargain away or hand over any part of our country. Afghans are extremely sensitive about occupation, and no Afghan will ever allow their land to be taken or controlled by outsiders, not even an inch. The Americans must understand this sensitivity. Our people will not accept foreign troops exercising authority over any part of Afghanistan. We heard Trump's remarks, and we responded. We issued a statement urging them to consider the reality on the ground and make realistic, rational decisions.
Now, do you interpret President Trump's comments about linking the return of Bagram to your demands as a signal that perhaps he may be willing to open a new chapter with your country?
The matter of our demands is a separate issue. Afghanistan does not and will never put forward any demands that involve relinquishing part of its territory in return. No such request has been made from our side, nor is there any need for it.
So why do you think President Trump is raising the issue of Bagram right now? And what do you think is driving the timing of this demand?
This is tied to US policy toward Afghanistan. Previously, we thought Trump was using such language mainly against his political rival, Joe Biden. But his recent emphasis suggests this is tied to their broader national strategy, and that is worrying. We reiterate, Afghans will never hand over any part of their country to another state. Past strategies of occupation failed, and this one will fail as well.
Now, President Trump has also warned that, quote, bad things are going to happen if Bagram is not returned to US control. How do you view remarks like those?
For 20 years under US occupation, Afghanistan experienced bad things, not for a day, but continuously for 2 decades. The Americans should not forget that bad actions trigger bad reactions. In the end, they were forced to withdraw their troops from Afghanistan. Afghanistan is not a country that can be occupied or subdued. They should engage with Afghans politically, diplomatically, and rationally.
Well, President Trump himself has said that talks are currently underway between the US and Afghanistan about Bagram. Can you confirm whether any such talks have happened? And is Afghanistan open to negotiations with Washington on this issue?
Bagram is highly sensitive. We will not discuss it with anyone. Current talks between Afghanistan and the US have been about releasing prisoners and about American economic investment in Afghanistan. These are the issues that have been discussed with their representatives.
And when you talk about releasing prisoners, are you talking about Afghans that are held in the United States?
There were Afghans imprisoned in the US, and there were Americans detained in Afghanistan. This has been the subject of negotiations between the two sides.
Now, Zakir Jalali, an official at the Islamic Emirates Foreign Ministry, wrote on social media that, quote, the Afghan people have never accepted the presence of foreign troops on their soil, but the avenues for political and economic relations should remain open. Now, do we read this as openness to dialogue on the subject of Bagram?
No. Mr. Jalali expressed a personal opinion, not the official position of the Islamic Emirate. But once again, Bagram is not up for discussion. Our talks with the US and others are focused on economic and diplomatic ties.
Now, according to media reports, there have been talks between Afghan and American officials on the subject of counterterrorism. Now, is there a link between these discussions and President Trump's demands about Bagram? And do they suggest that sanctions could be lifted?
Once again, I emphasize, our talks are about establishing good bilateral relations based on mutual interests. They are not about Bagram or any other part of Afghan territory. That is not under discussion, nor will it be.
Now, President Trump has voiced concern about China's influence in Afghanistan, saying that one reason he wants the Bagram Air Base back is because it's just, quote, an hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. How do you respond to that? And does President Trump linking Bagram to China factor into your decision-making?
No. Afghanistan pursues a balanced, economy-centered foreign policy. Just as we want relations with China, we also want ties with the US. Just as we want ties with Russia, we want ties with Europe. Afghanistan will not allow its territory to become a battlefield between rival powers. As for Bagram, it is Afghan soil. We have already said, Bagram is no different from any other part of Afghanistan. We will never allow it to belong to anyone, not to China, not to the US, not to any other power. And the claim that Bagram is just an hour from China is false. In reality, it is hours away by air from China. They have received incorrect information.
Okay, thank you for that. And just finally, how do you see the future of Afghan-US relations in light of all these recent developments?
As I said earlier, Afghanistan has already taken the necessary steps for relations. The progress that needs to be made from our side has been made. It now depends on how the US responds. If they value rationality, diplomacy, and economic cooperation, Afghans are ready to build good relations with them, as we seek with other countries. But if they insist on Bagram, coercion, or occupation, then Afghanistan has its own position. Just as we held our stance during the past 20 years, defending our country, our national honor, and our people's values was our only duty then, and it will remain our duty in the future.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for that. Zabihullah Mujahid, a spokesperson for the Taliban government, thank you very much indeed for speaking to Al Arabiya English. And thanks to you for watching. Do stay tuned.